Hello everyone, my name is Arthur Zhang. I'm currently a freshman at Winchester High School and I instruct robotics here at KTBYTE. My project that I'll be presenting to you today is AWARE. AWARE is a network of interconnected sensors that aims to help predict natural disasters. Natural disasters kill about 70,000 people each year and affect over 200 million more people, primarily because they don't get enough early warning. The current methods for predicting natural disasters is they use a sparse network of meteorology stations, as you can see on the left, this picture, and they take measurements about once every hour. And then any data that they don't have, they fill in with estimates, and then they use equations to calculate into the future. My approach uses small and low-cost devices that serve as these weather stations, and they form a very tight and interconnected network that can monitor conditions every 2 seconds. And then from there, I can use the data to train AI models and then tell people if there's a disaster imminent. So the system has two main parts. This is the sensor. This is the sensor unit, and this is the response unit. Both of them use the internet to communicate with my server at home to be able to communicate with each other. So everything starts with the sensor unit here. So this sensor unit has 4 different sensors. It has a CO2 sensor, a pressure sensor, a humidity, and a temperature sensor. And what happens is the Arduino starts off by reading the data from all of these. Then the Raspberry Pi down here communicates with the Arduino using Python and then sends all the data that it got to the server over the internet. And then the server takes that data and it stores in a file over here. And then that file can be then used to display real-time data and train neural networks. So if we go to the interface that I was just talking about, this is the interface right here. We'll see that once every 2 seconds, oh, you can't see this. Here. Will this work? Oh. So you'll see once every 2 seconds, a new data point is added. So if I breathe on this humidity sensor really quick, you'll see that after a few seconds, there should be a rise in humidity. There we go. So after that, we can also use this data to make predictions using artificial intelligence. So the specific type of AI that I used is called the LSTM, which stands for long short-term memory. And I used TensorFlow to train an AI. And if you look on the right, those are the results. The orange line is the results that the AI predicted, and the blue is the actual results. And as you can see, they are very close with very small margins of error. One of the most important parts of this system is the alarm. So I'm going to simulate a fire by putting a lighter under this temperature sensor for a couple of seconds. And after a certain threshold is breached, what will happen is the alarm will go off, and it will tell you that there is a fire. So I'm just going to wait for that to heat up, hopefully. So not only that, but it can also text you and tell you that there is a fire. So I just got a text message from that telling me that the temperature has risen. Okay, so the sensor module here has this sensor unit costs about $100, and this response unit costs about $50. And this is a huge improvement over the current method where they have to build a whole building and buy the land and buy all the sensors, whereas this is much cheaper, and you can even get a much tighter network in it with a much lower cost. Other advantages include that it's able to be deployed anywhere, and as I said, it creates a much tighter network. It's also less prone to missing information than the equations because any missing information can be accounted for using the AI because the AI doesn't need to know the information. It can make guesses, and we don't have to make the guesses ourselves. It's also capable of sending notifications to smart devices like you just saw, meaning that people don't have to wait around and look on social media to be able to see what's happening. So in the future, I want to add a custom printed circuit board to lower costs, and I also want to build a cellular connection into it as well as solar panels to be able to allow it to run indefinitely and wherever. That's it.
Yeah, that seems like a really amazing product. And my question is, if it does work in an ideal setting, if you have these sensors placed all around the US, is your vision to be more of kind of like a private subscription-based model where people can sign up and get notifications, or are you looking for more of a governmental role where you could provide the service to everyone within the region?
I'm thinking more of a governmental role because I want to make this data that I'm collecting being able to be accessed by everyone so it can be used, and then we can even use this device to alert authorities so they can even contact more people through like things like Amber Alerts or something like that.
So is the idea that this is going to replace weather stations, and it's going to be placed all over the U.S.? Is that what you were saying in the beginning?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So, Arthur, I want to say I really enjoyed your presentation, in particular the moment where you breathed on it and we saw that change. That was wonderful. You said your question, I think, is predicting natural disasters. Yeah. And what I'm sort of wondering about here is, how do we know that the artificial intelligence will work? You described the cost for one of these, but presumably if we're going to be predicting natural disasters, we need a lot of them, and then we would need time, I'm guessing, to see if the artificial intelligence can form, and only then would we know if it worked. Is that correct?
So, there are already some AI models online that are already starting to predict natural disasters, but they don't have enough data because they usually predict it within like a city. So right now, you already saw that it can predict the temperature and humidity, all that stuff pretty accurately. So we already know some of the conditions. Like when I created this project, I aimed it towards like predicting hurricanes because a hurricane hit a couple of years ago, so that was on my mind. So some scientists already know a lot of the conditions necessary for a hurricane. So I was thinking if we could predict accurately the conditions needed for a hurricane, we could essentially predict a hurricane.
Yeah. I think that really elaborating and really explaining the neural network aspect of it will be useful, because I think like it was a little bit, you explained it, but I think if you just reiterate it and really say it explicitly, it would be a bit more clear.
Comments and feedback. So the LSTM model that you described there, it's commonly used for, and you probably know this, it's commonly used to predict time series data. But what you're really trying to do is you are going to have many sensors, and I'm assuming you're going to actually have some other model that is taking the spatial data, the data from all these sensors across different locations to make a prediction, right? And you'll want to think about how many such sensors are needed in a typical city and what the cost might be to make that all happen. And even though you're expecting that the cost for land and things like that will not be needed, it will likely be something that would be needed because you'd want to make sure that these things don't get orphaned, right? When you put it out there, you'd want to be in dedicated spots that is owned by the government or the entity that's owning this.
I was also thinking that instead of just having like the government or the company paying for all of these, we could actually sell these models so that people at home, because a lot of people want this IoT system, so we could use this to both supplement their IoT system and use it to create data for the greater good.
Thank you, Arthur.